family and friends. It's Memorial Day weekend, which means that the summer season has officially kicked off. And so what better way to celebrate summer and have a lot of great barbecues and meals throughout the season than to do one of my family's legacy gems. And it's basically Venturo side of the family baked beans. So baked beans, you know, when you go to a barbecue traditionally, you know, they're not eaten, right? Because people are just opening a can and warming them up, and that's what we call baked beans. Nothing wrong with canned baked beans. They're actually pretty good. So we're gonna use them as the base of our recipe today, but we're gonna soup it up and give it a lot more flavor. So my mother used to do this. I actually have a very old recipe card. I'm gonna put it up here and you can see how crazy this is. I don't know what kind of typewriter she used to do this, but it's kind of red and black. And it's just got the very basic idea of what her baked beans were like. But what's really funny about this is it gives very little direction. It says, put the beans in a tray, add pepper, salt, a tablespoon of mustard and ketchup, and then add brown sugar and a streak of Caro syrup, which I remember she used to put in it. Today I believe they still have Caro syrup. My version of this legacy gem won't include that. I think it makes it a little sweet, and the beans are sweet on their own as it is out of the can. She says brown a pound of bacon, which is a ridiculous amount of bacon. We're gonna use 4 strips in our recipe today. So, and then onion on top, bake covered for about 2 hours, which if you really baked beans for 2 hours, even if you made them from scratch, you'd have pretty mushy beans when you were done. So over the years, you know, watching her and doing my own thing, I think I've got a pretty good handle on how this legacy gem should work. So let's get started. I'm using 16-ounce cans of just standard original baked beans. You can use any brand that you would like. What I do initially with the beans is there's always this piece of bacon, like mushy bacon, that's on the top of the beans, and also there's a lot of liquid on the top. If you just keep the beans, you don't stationary, you don't mix them up too much. So I just drain that off, and actually you can see the difference. I don't even know if you can, but you can see the difference in the amount of liquid that's in each of these cans because I've already drained these. So just gonna drain the beans. Just use your hand. Hold it over the can and drain the beans off. And then I have here just my regular casserole dish here. This is, I think, a 10-inch casserole dish. I think a dish with a lid, because you are going to have to cover it for the baking process, would be best. If you don't, any kind of a baking dish would work, and you can just cover it with aluminum foil. So I have 4 16-ounce cans of beans that I think, for a good portion. These beans are great leftover too after you bake them. So if you make this recipe and it ends up that it's a lot of beans, you could also half this too if you don't want that many beans. Just use 2 cans. And if any of these pieces of bacon from the can slip by, you just take them out. All right, so there goes our beans, and you can see that fills up my casserole pretty nicely. Simple as that. Now, you can use fresh beans, but you'd have to get a recipe on how to make those. I can't instruct you there, but it's another way to soup it up and figure it out if that's what you want to do. All right, so the next thing that we do is we sort of go with Mom, and we're going to put in some ketchup. Now, I really don't measure the ketchup. I just take it from the bottle and squeeze it on top, just all the way on top here. I mean, if I had to guess how much ketchup I would, you know, I put in, maybe about 1/4 cup. But, you know, this is kind of like easy breezy. So there goes the ketchup, and just put it all over the top of the beans. And then I put in some mustard. Now, you can use basic yellow mustard that you would put on a hot dog. I would not use Dijon mustard. Dijon mustard is way too sweet and will give your beans a different kind of a flavor, which I don't think you're gonna like. So this is just grainy mustard that I happen to like, and I would say 3 or 4 good dollops of the mustard. Let's start with 3. And you sort of just mix that in. And you'll see it just turns the beans, you know, sort of a different color. You can see the streaks of the mustard and the ketchup in there. And that's how you kind of know that you've mixed it throughout all of the beans, because you can actually see it. It smells good. Mustard and ketchup is great on everything, right? It's great on burgers, why not in beans? So that's that. Okay, the next thing that I do is I add brown sugar. Now, as in my Congo bar recipe, I use the granulated brown sugar from Domino. Regular light brown sugar is good. If you wanted to, you could use dark brown sugar as well. I like this, again, because it's dry, and you can just sort of sprinkle it over the beans. I would say about, for this many beans, about 1.5 tablespoons. You don't want to make them too sweet with the brown sugar. You just want the sugar, enough sugar to be in there to kind of permeate the beans and give them a nice flavor. And again, you just mix them in. Mix the sugar. Now, because this is the, you know, dry brown sugar, you can actually see the little specks of sugar that are inside the beans, and know that you've got it mixed up really, really well and consistently throughout all of the beans that are in here. Okay. And the next thing that we have is the bacon. So like I said earlier, it's 4 nicely crisped pieces of bacon. I've cut up most of it, but I just rip it up into small pieces so that every, you know, bite of beans kind of gets a nice piece of bacon in there with it. So I'll pour in all that bacon and mix it in. So now I would use a really, you know, a good bacon, a bacon that you like to eat. The better the bacon, you know, the better the beans are going to taste. Can you leave the bacon out? Yes, if you want to. But I think that the bacon lends it a really nice flavor and amps up the dish. And again, mix. So as you're mixing this, the mustard and the ketchup are getting even, you know, more mixed into the beans as you're adding each layer of flavor. All right, so now you just kind of smooth them out, and the finishing touch is onion. So here I have about half of a Vidalia onion, a large sweet onion. You could use a small white onion if you wanted, a whole onion. I would not use a red onion, just a regular onion. Will give it a really nice flavor. I think the red will be too spicy, but hey, give it a try. If all you have is a red onion and you want to go for it, by all means. And just take those slivers of onion, and these you're not going to mix in. You're just going to place them on the top of the beans. And as the beans bake, the onions are going to become nice and soft and a little bit of caramelized from the bean liquid. And they're going to be really nice and cooked when the beans are ready. And then after that, then you'll mix them in once the beans have been baked. So you get all of the onion on the top. Make sure you're covering, you know, as much of the space on top of the beans as you can. Just nicely scatter them. And that's all the ingredients for these delicious baked beans. And I will guarantee you, if you put these beans out at a party during the summer, people will eat them. They're great with any kind of barbecue. They're great with BLTs. They're really good with ribs. We're gonna actually have them with some nice steaks and a nice salad with some lettuce that we grew out in the garden, some nice spring lettuce. So they're gonna make a really good, delicious side dish. So cover them. Like I said, aluminum foil is fine if that's what you have. I have my nice lid here. We're gonna cover them and put them in the oven at 350 degrees and let them bake for 1 hour, not 2 as in Mom's recipe. I think 1 is enough. You'll notice that the beans, when they're done, will be nice and bubbly and perking away there in the oven. And then you pull them out, let them cool a little bit, and serve them. Once you're done, if there's any left, just put them in a Tupperware and you can warm them up on the stove in a nice saute pan, maybe add a little bit of water to loosen them up a little bit. But basically they're great left over, as I said, if they're not gone beforehand. So I will put them in the oven and I will show you what they look like when they're done, and we will have completed another legacy gem from my recipe box to yours, and hope you're having a great weekend. Let's open the lid and see what they look like. Still a little bubbly. The onions are all cooked. The juice, as you can see, is on the top, so we'll mix everything in. And these beans are ready to serve.